Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
All right, guys, we're back today. We've been on hiatus lately just because people keep canceling on us. So don't blame us. We're trying to get as many people as we can. Neil showed up today to hang out with the Three Stooges. I'm not even going to try to butcher your last name. How do you guys say that anyways?
Terribly, that's all.
Common spelling.
Kluszczynski. I can do that one. Yeah, that's an easy one. So Neil comes to us from Neil comes to us from Bend, Oregon, right? South Bend, Indiana. Sorry. So he's in a group with Tyler and Mike.
Yep.
Investor Fuel. Yeah, we were all Investor
That's
Fuel.
how we all met. Yep.
So Mike, I'm going to kind of let you, Mike or Tyler, I'm going to let you guys kind of lead this conversation because I really don't know shit about Neil other than like he's got some really cool social medias. So
But he lives in Oregon.
So one of my buddies is from South Bend. So when I saw the webpage, I was like, oh, South Bend. I was like, my buddy's from there. He used to do competition biking there. I was like, I wonder if he knows anything about it, but apparently it's in a different state.
A little bit away.
So my bad.
Is this a product of the Prince George's County school system?
I didn't go to school there.
No, man. So Neil, thanks for coming on. Like we said, greatly appreciate it. So Neil's somebody I met, what would you say, about 5 years ago? All my guys at work make fun of me because everything is, I say the other day. And that could be any time from like 2 days ago to a year and a half ago. So met Neil not that long ago. And just somebody, my business partner, Bill, and I hit it off with pretty well right from the get-go. You could just tell was a straight shooter, was kind of, just trying to figure out that whole being in business for yourself type thing. And obviously has done pretty well for himself over the last couple of years. So based out of South Bend, Indiana, we have established, and you primarily do flips and a little bit of wholesale and rentals, correct?
No.
Not too many wholesales.
Learning
right?
that now. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, Neil, just kind of tell everybody a little bit like, hey, where was Neil from like the high school to college or college to like real world first job, and how did you find real estate?
So I grew up in kind of a stressful household, back in the day, and I had a moderately successful uncle who was in Palm Springs, and he was in real estate. So I always kind of gravitated towards that. And you guys remember those like racks that had the homes and lifestyle magazines on them when you go inside the grocery stores? Okay, so I'd always pick them up and take them home, and I'd read them from like cover to cover. I don't know, and I just caught the bug. So I learned at a young age what I didn't want because we had like the stress and stuff of the home life. So I just from graduated high school in 2001. So I'm gonna date myself here, right? But moved away with my family. My dad got a better job, so we moved about 3 hours away, and I came back for a girl and started working at Coca Cola and going to school part time, right? And I just couldn't shake real estate. So in 2005, I got my broker's license, specifically to use it for MLS stuff. Bought my first house in 2008. And then it was an inexpensive place, and I renovated the whole thing myself and a buddy. So I knew that contractors kind of couldn't take advantage of us. So that's kind of how I wanted to learn. I wanted to do everything myself at first. And then we sold that for a profit, and then that kind of just started it, right? So from 2001 to 2017, I worked at Coca Cola managing like labor and budgets and stuff in the back half of that career, right? So from like 2010 to 2017 as well, I was 50-50 partner with a guy where he was the money guy in real estate, and I did everything else. So I'd drive the properties, I'd run comps, I'd put the numbers on it, we'd bid at the auctions, and then I would GC the whole thing. I mean, I had an old RAV4 that I would pick up doors and like go deliver them, and I'd paint on the weekends, like you name it, right? I was like just closing the gap on any of the stuff that I needed to that I just didn't know, right? So at the end of at the end of like 2015, I was like, man, I'm doing pretty well in real estate, right? So I thought to myself, hey, I could go full time at this, right? So I said to myself, hey, all right, if I make as much money as I do in the corporate world, as I do in real estate, then I'm going to leave, right? So 2015, that happened in November. So in November, I made just as much money as I did at my corporate job. And I said, man, I'm nervous, really not ready to leave, So the next year I did it. And it was like, I think June, so I was obviously getting better. I was starting to recognize opportunity, that sort of thing. And so I was like, man, I'm just not ready. I mean, I would get pits in my stomach thinking about it. Right. And towards the back half of like 2016, I was like, man, I just want to make sure that I never have to go back, So in 2017, I ended up doing that in the span of January and February. And then I thought to myself, all right, I got to get out of here because now it's costing me opportunity to not,
So just to clarify, you made as much as you did at your corporate job in real estate during the months of January and February. Yeah. So what would typically be your annual salary?
Yeah.
You made in 2 months.
So, some stuff bled over from obviously, you buy stuff and then there's a cash conversion cycle there. But yeah. And so in February of 2017, I gave my notice. And then, I gave them like 60 days, I think, to replace me at that time. And then I went out on my own and had panic attacks and did the whole 9, right? And then started just trying to figure it out, right? Once you lose that normalcy in your schedule and it's really up to you, I was really nervous for a long time on it.
How did you deal with that? Like, so I just was at a group and we were talking to a guy and there was a lot of talk about identity. And for once, it wasn't somebody in the fire service talking about losing their identity, leaving their job. So even in the corporate world where you were there, 16, 17 years, I presume Monday through Friday type situation, you have to request time off. Everybody tells you when you're there, when you're not there. And now you go to like this blank slate. Granted, you had been doing it for a couple of years, but like, how did you make that transition?
Yeah, thinking back, I'm definitely more advanced now than I was then. I think I knew back then that all I had to do was like do the actions that got the results, right? Which back then it looked a little bit like just continuing to do what I was doing, doing the share of sales back then that were super popular before that kind of dried up as a source, right? And then just working really hard, right? So from 2017 to 2019, before I joined Fuel, I had a high paying job. And every year it got worse from this is exhausting, right? So in 2019, I said, hey, there's got to be a better way than this, So I wanted to get around people that, were one, kind of have already gone through it, right? And two, people that I could be around that were going through it, that we could, connect on some other level than just like people not understanding what you're going through.
It was funny. We were talking about that. And in this particular case, I was having dinner with an attorney and he quit practicing law. And he was basically just to boil it down, he was just bored and had nobody to like hang out with and had nobody like to spend time with and do stuff because he had quit his job because he had replaced his income as a corporate attorney with real estate. His business, basically, he had it structured so that he had a operations manager who handled everything. And he said he worked approximately 3 to 5 hours a week and he was making more. But now he had all this time where he basically felt like he had a lack of purpose is the way I understood it. So it was like, man, you sit there, it's just like the problems never go away. They just change, So like you left this super stressful corporate job that you said was a well-paying job. And I presume 17 years with Coca Cola, you probably have a pretty decent compensation plan. And now okay, you're free of that headache, but now you got these panic attacks and all these new headaches because, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just like you trade these problems for these problems.
Nope.
Did you ever have to go back?
Nope. So I was.
Did you ever want to?
No. So I managed. Yeah,
that was just a softball
managed 2
question.
shifts of people, and so I managed a shift from 5 to 1:30, and then I managed the shift from 3 to 9. So when it was good, right? And so people left me alone, and if I ran the plan correctly, like it was great. But I could have a guy call off at 5 in the morning, and then also a guy call off at 4 p.m. and I was like always on. So it did in some ways prepare me to be organized and just know that like we as investors, like until we grow a team and people that we trust can take stuff off of us, we are kind of always on, right? If we want the opportunity, we kind of have to always be on, and that's not ideal, right? So when we're trying to raise a family or when we're trying to do date night or something, you get to the point like, man, what's it all worth? What's it all is for?
It's hard to compartmentalize sometimes, like that's super helpful device. The cell phone is also a super not helpful device in some regards because you're never really off unless you discipline yourself to do that. And I think that's, at least me speaking, it's something we all have to work towards.
It's funny. Me and my wife had this conversation the last couple of days is that she went back to work. We had our son. She's been off for her maternity leave, and she went back to work yesterday for the first day back. And we were looking at options. So my sister is also a social worker. My wife's in charge of end-of-life care for the social working aspect of it at a local hospital. And my sister was like, you can do like online therapy for people. And we looked into it, and like online therapy, they're paying anywhere from $35 to $110 for a 45 minute to an hour session. And I'm like, you can make the same amount of money working half the time and not have to sit in DC traffic going back and forth. And I think like your time cost energy is a big thing that a lot of people don't think about. Is like, if I'm spending, if I'm going to my 9 to 5 every day, I'm not including, the prep time to get up and leave and shower and drive. And, it's not just a 8-hour day. It ends up being like a 9 or 10-hour day that you're away from home. And that's an important thing to focus on, whether it be the fire department or corporate, is that a lot of people don't actually take into account like everything that else goes into it. During Zoom was great during COVID because like you can have like your boxers on right here and just wear a t-shirt and nobody's going to know the difference. So of course we can't do that in the fire service, but like,
why do you think I'm not standing up?
Yeah. So there were days, guys, and Aaron. So there were days where I would, I'd be wearing my Coca Cola uniform, and I would bring a change of clothes, and like on my lunch hour, I would change my clothes and go to a job site and like have to meet with contractors and stuff, and then I would rechange and then go back. And so it was really how bad do you really want it? And it was just really whatever it took, right? So I mean, I would live with my laptop on me like at night because I was just trying to close the gap and like get as good as I possibly could as fast as I could because I could not wait to get out of there, and then I exchanged it for different problems.
So now that we've established that you were in South Bend, Indiana, and not in Oregon, where do you invest? Is it all local? Do you do distance?
So we do St. Joe County and Elkhart County right now, but we just started TV commercials, and we're getting some outskirts of like that area. So we're trying to see if we can serve those people as well. So
when you first started, how did you find the deals?
Yeah, so I would be the sheriff sales at the county steps were every other Thursday or so, and that was primarily where I'd get my deals. I get a couple networking deals a year from like realtors or like be able to scalp 1 or 2 off the MLS, but I didn't start marketing. Actually, I did right before I came to Fuel. I started marketing direct to seller, but I'd send out like 3,000 postcards. And then like, if the phone rang, I'd be like, I'll just let them leave a message. I'll call them back.
Here, let me just light this $50 bill on fire.
A lot of people get nervous though. Like a lot of people, like they pull the trigger on the first move and then they can't execute the second move. And obviously like taking action is the biggest thing. Like once you take action, you need to follow up. It can't just be like, I'm going to just send the letters out and then hope it comes back to me easily. Like a lot of people, they get scared of talking to sellers. They don't know what to say. And it gets intimidating for people. I get that. But like, you just wasted, now it's like $1 to send out per mailer,
like 6
or something crazy.
I think.
I have no idea.
If you're doing a high volume, but yeah, I mean, I circled back to mail like 3 different times. Like I'd do one round and be like, oh, that was awful. And then like 9 months later, I would do another round and be like, oh, that's terrible, And so
the mayor of, I live in College Park, Maryland, just outside of DC. So the mayor of College Park got arrested and went to jail for a long time because he's a piece of shit. The new mayor is a friend of mine.
That was
big fan of him.
the pedophile guy.
Huh?
That was the pedophile guy, right?
That was the pedophile guy, and he lives like 2 blocks away from where I live now. My wife told me I'm not allowed to throw dog shit at the house. So the new mayor coming back around is a friend of mine. I like him a lot. He's more conservative. And I asked him, I was like, hey, man, can you just give me lists of houses that have been in disrepair? Whether it be like weeds or grass or, college kids are destroying it, whatever. He's like, yeah, we have a whole list. I'll send it to you. He's like, nobody ever asked me for it. What do you want to do with it? And I was like, I want to market to it, just like I did when I used to do landscaping. I want to go after the ones like the low hanging fruit. And a lot of people, they're not doing that kind of stuff. And like you went to your share of sales. I used to do that back in like, 08, 09. And it was low hanging fruit. Nobody could get access to money, or people were scared of buying real estate. And like, you have to find out what works for you in your area. And for me, like now I'm going to start marketing to houses in disrepair, because at 8%, people aren't buying these houses up. So if I can get my foot in the door, by all means, anything I can do, it's, you just got to work smart and what works for you. So it sounds like that was your turning point, was those 2 deals that first year where you made the same amount that you made in your sorry, I'm reading the comments, in your corporate world. So like, was that like the light bulb moment for you where it was like, I'm going to put more energy into investing than I am into
I mean, I always knew I wanted to do it.
Sorry.
It's just, I think when we get proof of concept, then we're like, all right, how do I turn gas on this? So just over those couple of years, I was like, all right, so I was saving all my money. So I didn't, then I was able to use my own cash too, to kind of switch, the velocity of money into there too. Right. So was doing that. And then, it was just time, man. It was just time. I had enough money in my bank account that I knew I wouldn't have to go back. And it was like, hey, I'm going to be 50 and have regretted not trying this, so let's give it a shot. That's what happens.
Neil, what about you? What does your acquisitions and closing look like?
I'm really similar to Tyler, right? So when a seller calls in, we have a follow specialist that we call him, that she picks up the phone, and then we do some qualifying questions. And one thing that Tyler summarized that great. The only thing that we're adding now, because our lead volume is high, is, hey, thank you for this. It looks like this is something that we would want to buy. Hey, let me just ask you, we do have kind of a busy schedule happening right now. So I just want to ask you 2 things. One, when we do come out, are all the decision makers going to be there? Right. And then the other one is, hey, just to ask you, let's say we come to a fair price. It's a fit. You love everything about it. You are ready to move forward the day we come out. Right. And you'd be surprised, like, people that are just like, I'm just not ready. Right. And then it's on us to either go back and say, dig into the motivation more, or we can go ahead and set the appointment out to check in with them in 30 or 60 days or so. Right. Because we found that, we're going on probably 30 plus appointments a month right now. And we found that, some of them we get there and we realize, man, they weren't ready to begin with, right? So how do we qualify that more on the front end? So that's a little bit more that we're doing up front right now.
How are you coming up with numbers? So let me ask you something, Tyler. I like actionable items. Like when you talk to a seller, what we do, what does that look like? Well, actually, and it's a supply and demand thing too, right? Neil, and so then when I want to see how each one of you approach a seller. Typically, it was 68% minus repairs, et cetera. But when your pipeline is low, then you might tick it up a little bit. Or when you've got a ton going on, you might tick it down a little bit, right? I think one of the hardest thing that's going to happen in the next 12 months is, even though we all have all the data,
right? Most people that have been in real estate, they haven't seen a market come down off of a high and how to predict what a house is worth now. So I think if you have the data now and you say, hey, that one sold 12 months ago for that price, so I'm good here. Like, there has to be a multiple that you put per your market. So you're not comping at those highs when we might be seeing a different market because of these interest rates.
I think a lot of people don't realize that sellers, like the normal people who don't invest, they don't realize just because the neighbor's house sold for, we'll say $1 million, that yours is now worth $1 million too, because
so
basically
everything for you
is a whole lot different than you $1 million at 8%.
Talk to the seller,
PIT.
You do the initial interview. You say,
so
"Are you interested in selling
what's
home?"
going
Mike,
on?
what about you?
What's
What's your
reason?
acquisition?
And then
Like,
send somebody out there and try to get them to close.
What
so
are
you're
you
closing boots on the ground.
So we're still doing it a little bit, and we've done it with the storage outbound marketing also. But largely, the framework looks like this: you take a mail list, or
what was the name of the training?
Or on TV, or driving for dollars because your neighbor's the mayor and gave you a list. Whatever it looks like, you're going to dump.
Neil, what about you? What is your acquisition
funnel?
look like?
And as it shakes out,
Tyler, right?
We have a separate phone number, so it rings directly to that. We do not live answer. So like to the comment earlier about like when somebody calls, let it go to voicemail.
And one thing that we
should let it live answer, but long story short, we don't.
Great. The only thing
as
that
soon
we're
as we
adding
get that,
now,
we call them back. We get the basic information.
Hey, thank you for this.
We're not doing so much volume.
That we
I don't
want to buy.
think any four of us are real big volume guys.
Let me just ask
it's not like
you.
We can't spend
have
a couple
kind
minutes
of
on the phone and just see
kind
of what the situation
busy
is.
schedule happening right now.
Basically
so
said
I just want to ask you two things. One,
and there's
when we
some
do come
level
out,
of motivation, which is sometimes hard to quantify.
Right. And then the other one is, hey,
for Bill and I, we have a guy that is also a realtor.
Come to a fair price.
This kind of on the side.
You love
He'll go
everything
on the
about
appointment. He knows how to comp a property. He knows what's desirable and not desirable.
And you'd be surprised, like people
like you
that
said
are just
about
like,
the current
I'm
situation
not ready,
with the market,
right? And then it's on us to either go back and say, dig into the motivation more, or
for the last couple of years, it was like, oh, this house will sell for $300, and then by the time you're done rehabbing it, you list it for $330, and then it gets bid up to $350.
Because we found
so it made a lot of people look
we're
really
going
smart.
on probably 30 plus appointments a month
we're just
right now.
Being pretty conservative. So it's like, hey,
we found that
it's on a busy road.
We get there,
definitely down to 65% ARV, or
they weren't
ready in a really good area,
right?
good
so
setting.
How do we qualify that
still
more
at that
on the
price
front
point?
End? So that's a little bit more
70, 72%. So it's not a one size fits all, but I do think it's important to look at what
how are
the
you
next
coming up with numbers
6
to
to 12
offer on
months
these properties
of uncertainty bring.
Mike
so
just
what we do,
calculating that into your offer,
and it's a supply and demand thing.
People are still going to buy
so
houses. The prices are still
typically
there.
It was 68% minus
if you're in
repairs,
that average price
but
point for your market,
when your pipeline is low,
product,
then you might
sit on it longer than what
or when you've got a
would have the last 2 years, but it's still going to
you might tick it down
unless
a
there's
little bit,
some
right? I think one of the hardest things that's going to happen in the next 12 months is even though
one thing you mentioned was a busy road, like it's worth less. That's actually one of
most people that have been in real estate, they haven't seen a market come down off of a high and how to predict
it's a state road, it's a busy road. If it's a double yellow line, it's going to be a busy road.
If you have the data now and you say, hey, that one sold 12 months ago for that price, so I'm good here. Like there has to be a multiple.
Kind of like it's one of those you have to take a look at the whole picture.
So you're not
it's on a double yellow line,
those highs
but it is in the school district that is more desirable. So while it's on a double yellow line, it's not like it's on I-95.
Sellers, like the normal people who don't invest,
it's also not on the end of a country lane either.
The neighbor's house sold.
I think given the type of property, it's a 3.2 in this desirable school district, and it's going to be at the price point that's even slightly below the average asking price.
For your PIT.
That's when I'm like willing to
that's a good point that you
do a little trade-off.
Mike, what about you? What's your
a little bit of an outlier?
Like? I mean, that makes
I know you're
not busy into it's just there's a couple things that I won't do, and that's one of them.
So we're still doing it a little bit, and
so I want to go back to what Neil said earlier. He said that his first 2 deals,
outbound
he made as much
also,
as a corporate job.
Largely,
when I talk to people about making money, so like the 2 deals I made at the beginning of this year,
are on TV
quote unquote
driving for dollars because your neighbor's the mayor and gave you a list. Whatever it looks like, you're going to dump
it's equity
data into the top of your funnel, and as it shakes out,
I can just
We
go
have
to
a
the bank
separate
and pull
phone
it out.
number, so
It
it
shows
rings
money
directly
that
to
my net
that.
worth has grown.
We do not live answer, so
exponentially
like
because of these
the
two
comment
deals.
earlier
And they
about
say
like
that
when somebody calls to let it go to
poor
voicemail.
investors are the ones that
We,
put all
we
their
should let
profits
it live
into the
answer,
next
but
deal.
long
and into
story
the next
short, we
deal,
don't.
into the next deal.
As soon as we get that, we call them back.
I said
We
you
get
can't eat
the
equity.
basic information, and
So like when you look at
we're not
deals,
doing
do you
so
look
much
at like,
volume.
am I
I don't
flipping this?
think
Am
any
I-
four of us
am
are
I
real
keeping
big
this as
volume
a,
guys.
equity
It's not
position?
like we can't spend a
Are
couple
you an
minutes on the
appreciation
phone and
guy,
just
a
see
cash flow guy,
kind of what the situation is.
depreciation guy,
I
And
have
whatever?
about
they've
50 doors
basically
right now.
said that they're looking to sell, and there's
nothing like
some
this,
level of
the storage
motivation, which
guy
is sometimes
right there
hard to
with 200
quantify.
and some.
We
But,
go on the appointment, and for Bill and I, we have a guy that
That's
is
all
also
relative,
a realtor,
though.
but he does this kind
If
of
somebody's
on
paying
the
you
side.
$49
He'll go on the
a month,
appointment.
that
He knows
door
how to comp a
decided,
property. He
one
knows
rent.
what's
here's how
desirable
I do
and
it,
not
guys.
desirable.
So over the past, when
And
I was a solo guy,
like
I
you
could
said
hold
about
whatever I
the
want,
current situation
right?
with
And
the
I would-
market and the
so when I
ARVs,
had my little guy,
we'll be very conservative.
I was like,
Whereas
man,
before,
there's no way that
for the last couple of
Kayla
years, it was like, oh, this
is
house
the
will sell for
earner that I
300,
am,
and then
right?
by the
I think
time
we
you're
all
done
got to
rehabbing
go
it,
through that.
you list it for
right?
330,
and, I said, all
and
right,
then it
well,
gets bid up to
if
350.
something happened to me,
So it made a lot of people
how
look
is-
really
how are we
smart.
gonna be all right? So
what
I
we're
started
doing is
going
we're just
heavy
being
into
pretty conservative.
rentals in
So
like
it's like, hey,
2018.
it's on a busy road.
And so I went from
definitely
like
down to
6
65%
to like
ARV,
30 in like
hey, it's in a
18
really good
months,
area,
just because I was
good
just holding
setting,
everything, and that
still at
helped
that
me go
price
cash
point.
poor real quick.
We'll
right?
go 70,
I wouldn't
72%.
really suggest that.
So it's
and
not a
then,
one size
so
fits
now it
all,
looks
but
a
I
little
do
bit
think it's
different. So I
important
got
to look
up
at
there
what the
pretty
next
quick,
6 to
at
12
least
months
relative to where I
of
was.
uncertainty bring,
And then
just
then it comes to a point where
calculating
it's
that into
hard
your
for me
offer.
now to hold a bunch
People
of
are still going to
rentals
buy houses
because I'm growing
the
a
prices
team.
are still there,
and we're investing back into marketing.
like
and
if you're in
stuff.
that
and
average
so,
price point for your market,
I think
and
it's
a
like,
quality
how
product,
can I keep my
you
business
might sit on it
healthy?
longer than what you would have the last
but
2 years.
still,
But
how
it's
can I
still gonna
take the best
sell,
one? So
unless
right now
there's
we
some
just take the best
extenuating
one, and we still
circumstance.
try to sell our finance everything.
One
we
thing
can,
you mentioned-
that's how it
0%.
looks for us.
Anything I can get 0%
One thing you mentioned
on,
was a busy road, like it's worth less. That's actually one of the reasons that I don't want to buy on a busy
So
road.
you're
is
saying
because
like if the
it's harder to
seller
sell, and I call
that
it the double
responds to your
yellow line
marketing
rule,
piece wants to sell their
where
house and they're
it's a
willing
state
to
road, it's
finance
a busy
it,
road. If it's a double yellow line, it's going to
You'll
be a
keep
busy
that.
road generally.
unless
it's
the rehab
it's a feeder
is so
Yeah.
huge
pipeline.
that
I mean,
I'll have
so
to
I
put
just
a ton
loaned
of
on
money in
one
it because I don't want to
that's
mess
on
with
it.
the mess with the note.
We loaned on
right?
a house,
But
I'll do that. Kind
and
of like
so our
it's one of
offer
those
looks
you
a
have
little
to
bit like
take a look
this.
at the
Hey,
whole picture.
Mr. Mrs.
It's on a
Seller,
double yellow line, but
would you?
it is
Here's our
in the
cash
school
price.
district
And they say,
that is
nah.
more desirable.
you know,
So
and it's like, hey,
while
I've
it's on
got
a double
another
yellow line,
program
it's
if
not
it's
like
something
it's
that you're
on
interested in.
I-95.
I don't know if you'd be
But
interested. All right, what is
it's
that?
also not
All right.
on the end of a
Looks
country
a little
lane
bit
either.
like,
But I think
give you
given the type
some
of
now
property, it's a
and some
3-2
later.
in this
you know,
desirable
and
school
then we just
district,
kinda
and it's going
walk
to be at the
down
price
that.
point that's
And
even
so,
slightly below
It looks a little
the
bit like
average asking price. So
I got an
that's
offer
when I'm like
yesterday
willing to
of
do a little trade off.
one of my
there.
properties yesterday. Yeah, a little bit of an outlier. A cash offer. It makes sense. And they own a finance offer. There's a couple things that I won't do. 0%. One of my properties that I'm selling. And I was like, I'm not doing 0%. I want to go back to what Neil said earlier. And I'm not going to take your cash. First two deals, interest rate made as much as in corporate job. So when I talked to people about making money, so like the two deals I've made, don't give them, don't give them 3% or 4% or 5%. He goes, you can't get anything under 7% right now. But it's not money that I give them, a little bit less than what they can get at market, and that's equity that I have built into another house. So it's not money that's just. I can just go to the bank. There are deals out there where somebody might finance my net worth has grown. Be realistic, exponentially because of these two deals. And they say that the most poor investors are the ones that put all their profits
the purchase.
into the next
I'm
deal.
giving them
And into
more
the
of a
next deal,
purchase
and into the
price.
next
I'm
deal.
prepaying the interest rate. That's
I
the
said
way
you can't eat
because most
equity.
of the time they
So
want
like when you look at
market
deals, you look
value
at like,
or
am I
just under
flipping
market
this?
value.
Am
The
I
house needs
am I
repairs,
keeping this as
whatever.
a,
Hey, my cash
equity
price
position?
is 50.
Are you an
want
appreciation
85.
guy, a cash
The only
flow
way I
guy,
can do
a
this,
depreciation
if I
guy?
prepay
Which
you that extra money in exchange for that 0%. Nothing like the storage guy right there with 200 and some. But,
do you have to frame it that way too? I mean, I don't do
that's all relative,
really
though.
any owner financing, but when I'm thinking of that,
If
when
somebody's
they're
paid you
talking, it's like,
$49 a
hey, I
month,
can give you
that door
85,
decides
but I'm
full
going to
one.
have to. You're going to have
here's
to
how I do it, guys.
hold
So
the
over the
note however
past,
you
when
frame
I
it, and
was
just
a
say,
solo
and I'll
guy,
pay you
I could hold whatever
$750
I
a month
right?
without
And I
ever
would-
mentioning.
So
the
when I
interest
had
rate.
my
So
little
as long as
guy,
they're okay with the monthly payment,
I was like, man,
does that help
there's
you
no
you
way that
overcome any
Kayla
interest rate objections,
is the
or
earner
are you
that I am,
required
right?
to
I
give
think we
them-
all
Yeah,
got
I
kind
don't
of
mention
the
that,
interest rate, right? The And I said, conversation, all right, well, how,
you know, and
if
I'm
something
not
happened
out
on
on
the
the
sales appointment,
how-
I'll do my
how
best,
is-
right? The
are we gonna be
conversation
all
looks
right?
a little bit like
So
this.
I
All right,
started
well,
going
hey,
heavy
I
into
might be able to
rentals in
get
like
you your
2018.
$80,000 if we do it another way.
And so I went from
right?
like
that
6
looks a little
to
bit
like
like 30
I'll give you
in like
some
18
at
months
closing
just because I
and
was
some
just holding
after
everything. And
closing.
that,
So let me
that
ask
helped me
you,
go cash poor real quick.
how much do you
right?
need now?
I wouldn't really suggest
So
that.
they say, man, I really need
and then
15K
so now
now.
it looks a little bit different.
say,
So
all
I
right,
got
well, if
up
you
there
need
pretty
15K
quick,
now,
at least relative
when
to
do you
where I
need the
was.
rest?
And then
you set the term.
Then it comes to a point
and
where
then you
it's
just
hard for me
backdate it,
now
and
to
you just-
hold.
you're
You're going to
a
make
bunch of
sure that
rentals
you still cash
because
flow,
I'm growing
right?
a team.
It's not
And
it's not a win
investing
for you.
back into marketing.
You can give
and
them all
stuff.
they want, but
And
if
so,
you can't make it work for you,
I think
it's
it's
not
like,
ideal. How can I
right,
keep
so,
my business healthy?
That's how we structure it.
But still, how can I take the best?
The
ones?
offer I
So
got
right now, we
yesterday,
just take the best ones, and
the
we still
realtor
try
who
to sell or
brought me was
finance
like,
everything we can. At 0%.
they want to be able to pay cash
Anything
for
I can
it
get
in 6 months.
0%
They're going
on,
to
I'm
liquidate the company that they own and start going towards retirement. I said, if we're
So
going to
you're
do
saying,
this, I
like,
want to
if-
do a
if the
minimum of a
seller
year payments.
that
And
responds
if
to your
they're
marketing
unable
piece wants to sell
pay
their
for this in
house
6
and they're
months,
willing to
I don't want
finance
to have
it.
to repo the house
You'll
or take
keep
them to
that.
court.
Unless
So
the
like, let's
rehab,
give them a year
so
because we don't know what's
huge
going to
that
happen.
we'll
with
have
the
to
next,
leave a ton of money in it because I
election
don't want to mess
cycle
with
or
the mess with
whatever's
the note,
going on in our
right?
crazy world. So I
I'll
want to
do
be
that.
fair,
And
but
so
some of
our
these people,
offer
they
looks a
have
little bit
unrealistic
like this. Hey,
expectations,
Miss,
and they
Mr.
might not
Mrs.
know real
Seller,
estate business like this.
would
They
you?
owned
Here's
I
our
think they
cash
own like
price.
a blinds company
And they
in
say,
Pittsburgh.
Nah.
And if
You
they
know,
can't liquidate
and
in
it's like,
6
hey,
months,
I've
then
got
it opens up a
another
can of worms for
program
me.
if something that you're interested
I,
in.
to
I don't
help
know if
them
you'd be
out, would want
interested
to push
in.
that
All right,
back
what does
a
that look
year.
like? All right, looks a
and then
little
take the
bit
payments,
like
obviously for a year at
I give
6
you
or
some
7%
now
to make
and
a
some
little
later,
more money,
and then
in the
we just kind of
process.
walk down.
Or
and
renegotiate
prepayment
terms
in
after
there.
6 months.
It looks a little bit like
But
But I said,
I got
you can
an
always just
offer
make it a
yesterday
prepayment
of
penalty.
one of my properties
that you're
yesterday got
automatically
cash,
getting
not a cash
12
offer.
You know, I
And
made
they
that
owner
mistake
finance
once
offer,
with
but they wanted to owner finance it
deal I
at
financed to
0%. One of my
somebody.
properties that I'm selling.
They
And I was like, I'm not
long and
doing
short
0%.
of it was they were going to finance,
and I'm not going to take
me
it
out,
cash.
and I
I'll
was
do
like,
an interest
dude,
rate
you're supposed
at asking
to
price.
hold this for like
And,
a couple
I actually
years.
told a
This
buddy
is
of mine,
a couple months.
he's
I would
like,
never have done this.
don't give them,
And
don't give
come
them
to find out, I
3%
didn't
or
have language
4%
in
or
there that
5%.
said
He goes, you can't get
there was a
anything under
prepayment
7%
penalty.
right now. So
But
give
the
them,
good news
a
is
little
he
bit less than what they
didn't
get
do
at
it,
market,
so
and that's
it all worked
fair.
out. But
Don't
anyways,
shoot yourself in the foot.
Like, break that down real quick.
So I know what you're there are deals out there
where
where
somebody
somebody
might
might
finance
finance
you
you
0%,
0% prepayment
but be
penalty.
realistic in your
Expectations. If they pay it before
is,
6 months, a year, 2 years,
I'm
then they have to pay
prepaying
a certain fee, right?
for the purchase.
Yeah,
I'm
so
giving them
here I
more of a
actually have
purchase price.
this
I'm
one in front of
prepaying
me.
the interest rate.
I
That's what
don't think anybody
because
actually
most
watches
of the
this on
time
YouTube.
they
so this
want
may not be very
market
helpful.
value or just under market
No
value.
words.
We had
Compared to
2
whatever.
viewers on YouTube
Hey,
last week. No.
my cash price is
Yeah.
50.
It was
you want
you and me.
85. The only way I can do this
you can't
is
really
if I
see this, I
prepay
guess.
you that
Never mind,
extra
this is
money in exchange
it's an
for that
amortization
0%
schedule for a loan I did
right.
for
So that's the way I can.
$89,056.20. So
do you have to frame it that way too? I mean, I don't
over,
do really any
20 or 30 years.
But
I
I'm
can't
thinking
remember.
of that when you guys
But
are
the
talking,
balloon
it's like,
payment is in 36
hey, I can give you
months.
85.
So this guy's
but I'm
payment
gonna
every
have to,
month
you're going
is
to have to
$607.52.
hold the note however you frame it,
So
and just say, and I'll
the
pay you
balloon payment is
$750
in 36 months,
without
i.e. 3
ever
years.
mentioning the
So
interest
you
rate.
put
So
the
as long as they're
language
okay
into
with the monthly
the loan
payment,
docs that
does
basically
that
say,
help you
and Tyler, I
overcome
know you
any
just
interest rate
went off, but
objections,
correct me if I'm
are
wrong.
you
You're the
required
expert
to
here.
give them?
Yeah, I
If
don't
he
mention
pays
the
me
interest
off
rate, right? The
at any
conversation,
point
and I'm not
before
out
that
on the
36
sales
months,
appointment, but
there's
I'll do my
usually a
best, right?
step
The
down.
conversation looks
Sometimes
a
they'll
little bit
call
like
it like
this.
a
All right,
4 3
well,
2
hey,
1.
I
And
might
it
be able to
basically
get
just means
you
like if you
your
pay it off,
$80,000 if we
say
do
you
it
get a
another
loan
way,
and
right?
you pay
That
it
looks
off
a
in
little
year
bit like
one,
I'll give you
and there's a
some
prepayment
at
penalty
closing and some
in the first
after
year of
closing.
4,
So let me
it'll be
ask
4
you,
points of the loan.
how much do
So
you
you'll have to
need
pay
now?
a $4,000 penalty
And so
per
they
se.
say, man, I
So
really
to pay off the
need
$100,000
$15K
loan
now.
in year one, you'd actually
Say,
pay
all right, well,
104.
if you need
And then
$15K
the
now,
following year,
when do you
if
need
the
the
balance
rest?
stayed the same,
And then
103,
you set the
102,
term,
101.
and then you just
So in this
backdate it,
case,
and
like,
you're going to make sure
I'll
that you
earn
still cash flow,
$19,000
right?
worth of
It's
interest
not
on
a,
this
it's not a
loan
win for you.
within
You
36
can give them
months.
all they want,
If
but
he
if
paid
you
me
can't
off
make it work for
early
you, it's not
before
a
that
deal,
36
right?
months,
So,
whenever we're
that's how we
negotiating, I would
market.
have to calculate like, hey, the offer
The offer I
he
got
gave me
yesterday,
is acceptable because I
the realtor who
anticipate
brought it to me
making
was like,
$19,000 worth
they
of
want to be able to
interest.
pay cash for it in
If
6
he
months. They're going to
pays me
liquidate
off
the company
early,
that
I
they
need to
own
put verbiage
and
in
start
there
going
so that
towards
I still
retirement.
net
I
the
said,
offer price.
if we're going to do this, I
and
want
what
to do
I'm
a minimum of a
anticipating
year payments. And if
by him
they're
paying me
unable
off
to
early.
pay
I'm
for
not
this in 6
explaining that
months,
super well,
I
but
don't want
basically
to
I need to account for the
repo the house or take them to
$20,000
court.
of quote
So I was
extra
like, let's give them a
income
year
in
because
that
we don't know
initial
what's going to
offer
happen
if he's going to
with the
refi me
next,
out early.
election
But,
cycle or whatever's going on in our crazy world.
Yeah.
So I want to be fair, but
don't
some
want
of
to
these
get too
people,
far
they have
down that
unrealistic
because
expectations.
I'm not going to be able to explain it
it
super well, but the long and short of it is
they owned I think
you
they own like
pay
a blinds company in Pittsburgh.
quote
And,
penalty
if
you
they
paid
can't
off
liquidate
early
in 6 months,
if your
then it
loan
opens a can of
has
worms for me. So
a
to help them
some
out, I wanna
verbiage
push
in
that
it
back
about
a year.
prepayment penalties. Not
and
all
then
of them
take
do.
the payments obviously for
I
a
work
year
with several
at,
banks where
6 or
there is no
7%
prepayment
to make a
penalty.
little more
As long as you
money in the
refinance or
process.
sell refinance with the same
terms after 6
institution
months.
or sell.
What
if
might-
you refinance with a
I said,
different
you can always just
institution,
make it a prepayment.
usually they'll hit you with
penalty.
some sort of prepayment penalty
you're automatically
within that
getting
like first 1 to 4
You know,
years.
I made that mistake
Because all the
once with
loans are structured
deal I financed
for the
to
bank
somebody.
to make the most amount of
They-
money in the
Long
beginning
and short
of
of
the
it
loan.
was they were going to finance.
So like if you look at this,
me out
of that
and I was like, dude, you're supposed
$672
to hold this for like a couple of years. This is
$538
I would never
of
have
that
done
is
this.
interest.
And
$69
find out
is
I didn't have
principal.
language in there that
So
said
it is basically
there was a prepayment
slanted in
penalty,
favor
but
of the lender.
the good news is he didn't do it. So
It's just one of
worked
those.
out.
Most people
But
probably
anyway,
do 2
Mike,
to
break
3
that down real quick.
loans
So
a year.
I know what
The
you're
house they
talking
bought,
about,
the house
but
they
I'd like
sold,
to
the house they
hear
bought,
how
the
you
house
break
they
that down.
sold.
So prepayment
If
penalty,
you're doing a bunch of these, you
they have-
need to
if
pay
they
attention
pay
to
it
that because
before
not all loan
6
docs are
months, a year,
created
2
equal.
years, then they have to pay.
So I'm sure Tyler
certain
can speak
fee,
to
right?
that. But
yeah, so
yeah,
you're actually
that's that one.
This one in front of me. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody
it's
actually
just,
watches
it's just
this on
obviously so they
YouTube,
guarantee
so
their
this may
return,
not be
right? If
very
they're going to
helpful.
loan all this money out, Mike, you're loaning your money
No,
out.
where-
Usually
we had
it's
2
about
viewers
return.
on
If you do it and then pay it off in the next month,
It
most
was
of the
you,
time
Meg.
these big lenders
so
are selling your
You can't
servicing
really
rights
see
to
this,
make
I
money,
guess. Never mind.
and
this
they're
is
not
horrible.
servicing the loan long enough.
It's an
the
amortization
bank loses
schedule for a
money,
loan I did for
and that's why they're protecting themselves. I know a lot of people get
$89,056.20.
irritated with prepayment
So
penalties. If they
amortized
didn't have
over
those in place, capital would not be available.
20 or
and then
30
a lot
years,
of
I
the
can't
loans
remember.
that we're
But the
getting on
balloon
as far as
payment
like
is in
DSCR
36
stuff like
months.
that.
So this guy's
Nobody's
payment
gonna
every
offer
month
them
is
because they would constantly be losing
$607.52.
money if people were
So
refinancing. So
the balloon payment is in 36 months, i.e., 3 years. So
So,
you
Neil,
put
you
the
say you're
language
growing your
into
team. I've
the
been
loan
noticing
docs
you a
that
lot on
basically
social media.
say,
I
and
think
Tyler,
it's cool.
I know you
Like,
just
I see
went off,
there's a
but
lot of
correct me if
stuff
I'm
that
wrong. You're the expert
implementing.
here. If he pays me off
what
at
led
any
you to start
point
building a team
before that
and then
36 months, there's
what is
usually
your- what
a
does that
step
look like
down.
as far as how
Sometimes
big
they'll call it
you
like a
want?
4,
Yeah,
3, 2, 1.
What led me
And it
to
basically
that
just means
is,
like
is
if you
in
pay it
2019
off,
when I had a really,
say you get a loan and
I
you
was
pay it
working
off
from
in
the
year
minute I woke
one,
up to the minute I went to bed.
and there's a prepayment
and I was
penalty
like, man,
in the
if
first year
even
of
if I
4,
just
it'll be
give a
4
salary
points
to an
of the
assistant
loan. So you'll have to
and
pay
just
a
get my time
$4,000
back and do
penalty
not
per
earn
se.
another dollar.
So to pay
I was
off
like,
the
I'm good
$100,000
there.
loan in year one, you'd
So I
actually
did
pay
that.
104.
So I hired an assistant,
And then the
first,
following year,
and then I hired a sales
if the
guy.
balance stayed the same,
And then,
103, 102, 101.
Then I
So in
hired
this
somebody
case,
to
like,
answer the phone, so my
I'll
sales guy could
earn
go on
$19,000
appointments, and that
worth
could
of
help
interest on
shield
this
him
loan
to where when he's in
within
appointment,
36 months.
he could.
If he paid me
wouldn't
off
miss a call,
early,
right? So that's
before
kinda
that
how that
36
started.
months, whenever
So
we're
right now
negotiating, I would have to calculate,
for me,
like, hey, the offer he
it just
gave
looks
me
like,
is
I'm
acceptable
trying to grow
because
as a
I
leader,
anticipate making
and I think that's my
$19,000
next
worth of
step
interest.
is to do that.
If he pays me
and
off
as
early,
I see a
need
little
to
bit
put
more of the
verbiage
next
in there
stair,
so that
man,
I
think
still
that it's
net
really just a numbers
the
game.
offer price.
So for us,
and
we're
what I'm
anywhere
anticipating
between like
getting
4 and like 52,
by him paying me off
50
early.
for a
I'm
cost
not
per
explaining that
contract,
super well, but
you know?
basically I need to account
So
for the
really for us,
$20,000
it's just like,
of quote extra
you know,
income
how
in that
much can I
initial
spend?
offer if he's going to refi me out early.
You're saying $4,000 to $5,200 to buy
so
one.
how
Yes.
much can I spend without
don't want
that
to get
going
too far down
much to
that
the
because
negative?
I'm not going to be able to
Right.
explain it super
So we're
well,
going
but
to
the
lose
long and short
some
of it is
effectiveness
you
there.
pay
But I think
quote
my next
penalty
stop,
if you pay it off early
would be
if your loan
to
has
keep upping it like
some verbiage
one
in it
unit
about
of
prepayment penalties.
contract
Not all of them do.
cost,
Like
right,
I work
per
with
quarter,
several banks where there is no
or per
prepayment
month
penalty
until
as
we're
long as you refinance or
I
sell.
know you guys are
refinance
Hermosi
with the
guys
same
too, right? But
institution
here's my thing:
or
it's
sell.
either
If you
with
refinance
him,
with a
right,
different
he says it's
institution,
either a business
usually they'll hit
problem
you with some
or
sort
a
of
leads
prepayment
problem,
penalty
right?
within
So
that
every
like first
every
1 to 4
Monday
years.
when I sit
Because
down
all
and
the
talk
loans
to
are
the
structured
team, I'm like, all right,
for the bank to
can
make
we
the
not
most
handle
amount of money
leads or
in
something
the
else
beginning of the
broken?
loan.
Right. And
So
people
like
are
if you
man, we
look
can
at
handle
this,
more leads,
of that
then it's just a simple ratchet
$672
up, right?
$607,
There's eventually a point where you have
of
too
that
many
is
leads and it
interest.
breaks something.
$69
So
is
it a leads
principal.
problem or is
So
it a
it
business
is
problem?
basically
So
slanted
that's
in
kind of what
favor
I'm
of the
leaning
lender.
towards now. So we just up our
It's just one of
upped our
those. Most people
TV,
probably do
and what our
2 to
spend
3
is, and we're
loans
spending a
year.
lot of money right
the house
now,
they
a lot
bought,
more
the
than
house
I'm
they sold, the
used
house they
to,
bought, the house they
right?
sold.
But
If you're doing a bunch of these, you need
I was
to pay
gonna say,
attention to that because not all loan
sharing
docs what you're willing to share. I have a idea because we've talked, but like typically, what does it take to run just an advertising ballpark monthly to get that kind of
it's just obviously so they guarantee
30
the return,
appointments.
right?
I know
If
how
they're
much
gonna
work
run all
that
this
takes
money
to
out,
get
Mike,
30
you don't need
Yeah,
money
so
out
I'll
30
share-
and whoever
I'll
it's
share kind
if
of
you do it and then pay it
our
off in the
last
next
quarter
month,
numbers
most of the
I'm putting
time
together
these
for
big
fuel,
lenders
right?
are
So,
selling your servicing rights to make money,
where's it at?
and they're not servicing the
Okay.
loan long enough.
So
the
in
bank
Q3, and
loses
these are
money,
engaged
and that's why they're
leads,
protecting
right? So
themselves.
these
I
are
know a lot of
leads
people
that have
get
like
irritated with
said,
prepayment
hey,
penalties, but if they
I
didn't
need
have
help
those
and
in
I want to
place,
sell my house
capital
within
would not
90
be
days,
available, and
right?
then
And I want an offer from you. That's what an
on
engaged
as
lead
far as
looks
like
like for
OCR
So we had
stuff like that,
148
nobody's going to offer them
engaged
because they
leads in
would
Q3.
constantly be losing money if people were refinancing.
We had 70
So-
appointments. We made 58 offers. We
So Neil, you
locked
said
up
you're growing your
23
team.
contracts,
I've
and
been
we
noticing too a lot
closed
on
20
social media.
houses.
I think it's cool. Like I see, there's a lot of stuff that you're implementing. What led you to start building?
That's
a team?
pretty impressive.
And
So,
then
I mean, you
what
can
is
kind
your,
of
what does that
good
look like as
ratio,
far as
yeah.
how
based on the
big
cost
you
per
want
contract.
So what led
But,
me
I
to
mean,
that is
the
in
point
2019
is, like,
when I
you're
had
spending
really,
a lot of money.
I
And
was
like
working
you said, you're
from
trying
the
to
minute I
grow
woke
as a
up to the minute
leader.
I went to bed.
And
I
sometimes
was
I'm like, well,
man,
what is that?
If,
what
even
does
if
that
I
mean?
just give a
What's the
salary,
I'll
tell you what it
to
kind
You
of
know,
looks
I'm
like
just out here trying
and
to
just get my time
you
back
know?
and do not
But
earn
it's like
another
getting-
dollar.
I'm
I was like,
so
I'm
young
good
in
there.
this, right? But I
So I did
guess the
that.
last
So I
2
hired an
weeks I've been
assistant
doing like
first,
weekly
and then
one-on-ones,
I hired a sales
and a 1 hour
guy.
weekly Monday
And
meeting.
then,
And I at first
then
I
I
was thinking,
hired
man,
somebody to
meetings
answer
are
the
just
phone, so
silly,
my sales guy
right?
could go on appointments,
just
and that could help
nonsense. You
shield
don't need
him
them,
to
this
where
and that.
when
But
he's in
I
appointment,
find that I have to pack so much into this
he
one
wouldn't miss a
meeting
call,
on
right?
Mondays.
So that's kind of how that started.
And then like the team.
So
just
right now
gets it
we're
after that. You know, for
and
me,
then everybody
gets a half hour with me.
It
once
just
a
looks
week,
like
and we just
I'm trying to grow
like
as a
instead
leader,
of
and
the
I think
stuff
that's my
rolling
next
back on
step
me,
is to do that.
and like
and,
I'm exhausted
and
at the end
as
of the
I
day
see a
because
little bit
I'm
more of the
kinda
next
in the
stair,
last
man, I
5%
think
of
that
every
it's really just a
position.
numbers game.
I found
So
that
for
just the
us,
last
we're
couple
anywhere
weeks of
between
like
like
being
4
super
and like
proactive in that,
52, 50 for a cost per
that I have more
contract.
energy at the end of the day, and
So
people
really
feel
for us, it's just like,
encouraged and empowered to make decisions.
how much can I spend?
Right? And so
You're
it's
saying
just been an interesting
$4,000 to $5,200
transformation,
to buy
right?
one
So
house.
how much can I
of how that
spend
works.
without
Okay.
that
So
going?
I don't
too
know
much
what
to the
that means
negative.
or
what's gonna
Right.
happen there.
So
but,
we're gonna lose some
I've had less
effectiveness
stuff
there.
roll back onto me that I
but
have to solve.
I think my next
in the last
step,
couple of weeks.
I mean, would be, to keep upping it like one unit
And
of
like you said, getting
contract
comfortable
cost,
just
right,
with some
per
of those
quarter,
numbers, spending more
or per
But,
month until we're
you're starting to kind of
um,
see some of the
and
results.
I know you guys
and I
are
presume
Hermosi guys
if you're
too,
willing
right?
to spend
But
more,
here's my thing: it's
the
either
system is
with
working
him,
on down the line
right?
because
He says it's
once you
either
get
a
that
business problem
property
or a leads
onto your
problem,
conveyor belt,
right?
you
so
know what
every
to do with it.
every Monday when
And
I
you're
sit
flipping
down and
so
talk
easy.
to the team, I'm like, all right, we were heavy. Can we not
flips,
handle the
and
leads?
now
or
it could
something
be as
else
simple
broken,
as like,
right? And if
now
like,
what
man,
I
we
tell
can handle
people
more
when I have the
leads,
sales
then
guy
it's
tell
just
a
a
simple
simple
ratchet
ratchet
up,
up,
right?
I don't know what we're going to do
And
with this
there's
place.
eventually
My
a
main goal
point
here is
where
to
you
solve the
have too
problem.
many leads and it breaks. So
let's
is it a
see
leads
if that's
problem
an
or
option
is it
for
a
us,
business
if we can
problem?
find a
So
way to
that's kind of
solve
what you've
I'm
got going
leaning towards
on
now.
and
So
then
we just up
let
our
me figure it
up our
out
TV,
later on what the
and what our
exit is,
spend
right?
is.
So some of
And
it's
we're spending
like,
a lot of
hey,
money right now.
a lot more
plan
than
to
I'm
flip this,
used
and then
to.
we get 3 or
Right,
more
but-
in the hopper, and then it's like,
I was
man,
gonna
now
say,
we really just need to clean this out.
sharing what
and
you're
sell
willing to
it,
share. I
you
have
know?
an idea
But
because
our
we've
main
talked,
goal
but
is
like
always
typically,
to, like,
what does
solve the
it take
problem
to
on the
run
front end
a
for the seller.
just an advertising
There's just not a lot of
ballpark
people out there that like
monthly
really
to get that kind of
that.
appointments?
And
30
and
appointments.
that's
I
where
know
we
how much
focus
work
most
that
of our
takes to
time
get
and
30
attention.
appointments,
So
not 30 leads.
I'll share kind of
That's a
our,
lot.
our last
Yeah,
quarter
'cause at
numbers
20
'cause
and
I'm
a
putting them
quarter,
together
I
for
mean, you're
fuel, right?
picking up
So,
anywhere from 60 to 80-ish
where's
houses
it
a year. That's
okay.
that'd be a
So
lot of
in
work.
Q3,
Too
and
much.
these are
That'd be a lot.
engaged leads, right?
Yeah,
So these are
and-
leads
yeah, way
that
too
in
much.
operations. You guys probably know, but like you
I
can
need
lose
help
a
and
lot
I want
in
to sell my house
operations,
within
man.
90
Like
days.
you can,
right? And I
like,
want an offer from
you can
That's
have,
what engaged
you know,
lead looks like for us.
So we had 148.
That's the leaky bucket, man. You
engaged
don't even
leads
realize
in
how many
Q3.
holes are in that bucket
we
with
had
operations
70
until you start like,
appointments.
hey,
We
wait a
made
second.
58
This deal
offers.
penciled out.
We
I
locked
did
up
this, I
23
did that, but then,
contracts.
you know,
and
I've
we
had that
closed
happen
20
with
houses
rentals. You're like, well,
in Q3.
why is this one not like? Why do I
So-
feel like I'm not making any money? And you start digging into it, and you're like, well, the building's
that's pretty
110 years
impressive.
old.
So,
you're sitting
I mean,
there
you can
every
kind of-
time you
It's a good
turn around,
ratio,
getting
yeah.
based
based on
on
the cost per
with
contract.
some sort of maintenance
But,
thing.
I
Which
mean,
you kind of go
the
into it
point
knowing
is,
that
like,
you're spending a lot
over the
a
last
lot of
couple
money.
years, yes,
like you
rents
said,
have
you're
gone
trying to
up,
grow
but
as
the
a
cost
leader
to make
any
and
repair.
sometimes
has
I'm
also
like, well,
gone
what
up
does that
significantly.
what does that mean?
So it's like,
You just get like,
Well, I'll tell you what it
you
kind
know,
of
I'm
is.
just out here
I'm
trying to
just
survive. You know,
you know,
a but it's like
hole in the
bucket you don't even realize is there.
So young in
Same
this,
thing with
right? But
operations.
I guess
like, you don't even
last
realize
2
like
weeks I've
you
been
got the
doing like
assistant,
weekly
you got this
one-on-ones
dialer,
and a
you
1
got
hour
this
weekly
marketing
Monday
piece, you
meeting.
got all this little
And
stuff.
at first I
it
was
adds
thinking,
up.
man, meetings
Next
are
thing you
just
know, your
silly,
overhead is
right? They're just
substantial.
nonsense.
You're running
you
a
don't need
legit
them, this and
business,
that.
though.
But I find that I have to pack so much into this one meeting on Monday.
Neil, how do you find your crews to
and
run?
then,
Because
like,
that's a
the
lot
team
of
just
lot
gets
of
it after
crews
that.
to run for 20.
And then everybody
to
gets
60
a half
deals a year.
hour.
Like,
with
how are
me
you
once
finding
a
your
week,
crews? You
and-
have
and
set
we just,
guys.
like,
Are you
instead
replacing
of
them?
stuff rolling back on me,
you
you know,
and like I'm
and a
exhausted
flip
at
for
the
us
end of the
could be
day
anywhere
because I'm
between,
kind of
like,
in the last
you know, carpet
5% of
paint
every
and
position.
some, you know, lights
I found
and
that just the
hinges
last
and
couple weeks of like
doorknobs
being
and
super
stuff,
proactive
all the
in
way
that,
to
that,
like, man, we just spent 11
that I have more
months
energy at the end of the
remodeling
day,
one
and
in a
people
historic
feel
district where we had to,
encouraged and
you know,
empowered to
gut
make
it
decisions
and then rebuild
right?
it, right?
And
So we're not scared
it's just been
of
an
that.
interesting
I think that's where we have some of our
transformation
stuff,
right? But
of how
the
that
way we
works.
find our
So
contractors, I don't know what that means or what's gonna happen there, but
we first
I've had
asked
less
the
stuff
people
roll
that
back onto
we
me
know are
that I have to
good,
solve
right, that are on
in
our
the last
teams,
couple
like,
of
hey,
weeks. Who else might you know? You know, do you have anyone? And we might start off and say, hey, do you know anyone that could do windows?
And
something really
like
small,
you said, getting
something like
comfortable
one
just with
stop
some of
shop,
those
right? I
numbers,
don't want to give
spending
a whole
more.
house over to
But
somebody, but it'd be like, hey, do you know
you
anybody that
start
could
to kind of
do
see some of the
could hang
results, and I
doors
presume
or could
if you're willing
do
to spend
siding
more,
or stuff, and
the
then
system
you
is
just
working
kinda
on down the line. Because
establish
once you get
right?
that
and then what we do is we
property
treat them really
onto your
well.
conveyor
We ask
belt,
what we
you
can
know
do
what
for
to do with
them,
it,
right? It's
right?
not about
And
what
you're
they can do
flipping
for
those
us,
things.
right? It's about, well, hey, what can I? How can I make your
heavy
life
easier,
flip,
man?
What would
now it could be as simple as
when
like,
you want to work with
now what I
somebody,
tell
right?
people, and
when I ask you,
I tell
what
sellers is
what would
like,
make
hey,
it so cool?
I don't know
to
what
work
we're
with
going to do
somebody.
at this place.
What's
My
important
main
to
goal
you?
here
And
is
we
to
pay
solve
right
the
on
problem.
time. And we try to
So
keep steady
let's
work for
see
people
if that's an
man.
option
There's
for
plenty
us.
of
We can
times
find
where
a
like
way to solve.
I probably
what
made
you've
the
got
same
going
amount
on,
flipping it
and
as I could have like cleaning it out
and we
and
figure it
selling
out
it
later
because I
on what the
wanted to
exit is,
keep
right? So
someone
some of
busy,
it's
right?
like, hey,
It's not necessarily
we
a
plan
good
to flip
business,
this
and then we get
model,
3 or more
but it's
in
good
the hopper,
from
and
like
then
a
it's like, man,
goodwill
now we really
and
just need to
humanity
clean this
model,
out
right?
and sell
So,
it. You know, and then we just
but
keep
our main
we just try to
goal
keep
is
as many
always to,
people
like,
busy as we
solve the
can,
problem on the front
and
end
then
sell it.
you know, there's just not a lot of
we
coach them and
really
train them as well on quality,
right?
you know,
So we have,
and that's where we
quality
focus
control
most of our
stuff that
time
we're
and
picky,
attention, you know, because we put our name on it.
Yeah, because at 20 and a
it's
quarter,
funny you say that.
you're
I'm part of a bunch of
picking up
contractors
anywhere from
groups,
60
and,
to 80-ish houses a
there's
year.
two mindsets that I
That's
see.
that'd be a lot of flip.
The two
Too
dominant
much.
ones
That'd be
is,
a-
I mean,
you have one guy that wants to make the
and
most
way
money
too
with
much.
the least
operations,
amount
you
of
guys
work,
probably know, but
and the
like
quality
you
is
can
out the
lose a
window,
lot in
garbage.
operations.
or you get the
man.
guys
Like,
who know they're putting their name on
like,
something,
you
and they
can
want
have,
the best
you know,
looking finished product possible because
That's
they
the
have a
leaky bucket,
reputation to
man. You
uphold.
don't even
And
realize
it's a
how
lot of
many holes are
issues
in that
nowadays
bucket
because
with
back
operations
after
until you
08,
start
I'm
like,
sure
hey,
you
wait a
guys remember
second,
this was
this deal penciled
contractors
out.
couldn't find work.
I did this, I did
nobody
that,
was
but
buying
then
houses.
you
and
know I've
renovating
had that
them. So
happen with
it was easy to find
rentals.
really
You're like,
cheap
well,
labor.
why
And
is this
now,
one not
after
like?
COVID,
Why do I
after
feel like I'm
the
not
cost
making
of
any money?
everything's
And you
gone
start digging
not
into it,
only
and you're
are
like, well,
materials more expensive,
the building's
it's harder
110
to
years
find
old. You're
good
sitting there every
contractors
time you
to
turn around
do
getting nickeled and
quality
dimed
work, and
with
that's an
some
issue
sort
I've
of
always run
maintenance
into.
thing, which you kind of
which
go
is why I
into it
swing my own
knowing
hammer
that.
a lot of times.
But over the last
it
couple
sounds
of years,
like a lot
yes,
of you
rents
guys
have
have the
gone
same
up, but the
issues.
cost to make any repair
what
has also
costs,
gone up significantly.
10,000
So
this
it's like,
year
you just get
is
like
not where we'll
nickeled
be
and
in a
dimed
year
to
or two
death,
from
or
now because things are going to keep going up in
a
cost
hole in the bucket you don't
and
even
expense
realize is there.
ratios.
Same
Like, I
thing with
remember when 2x4s
operations.
got
Like,
up
you
to
don't
like
even
8 or 9
realize like
bucks a stick.
you got the assistant,
To
you
frame
got
out a
this
house, it
dialer,
was
you got this
30%
marketing piece, you got
of the house
all this little
cost
stuff that,
was this
and it
framing.
adds up.
And now,
next thing you know, your
after
overhead
COVID,
is
it got up to like
substantial,
50%,
and
that's
you're running a
big
legit business
jump.
though.
We're
And
trying.
cost expense, that expenses passed from the builder.
Neil,
or the
how do you find your
contractor
crews to
onto
run?
the
Because that's a
homeowner,
lot
or
of
whoever's building the house.
crews to run
So
for 20 to 60.
you got to
deals a
kind of
year.
know
Like, how are you finding your
all
crews?
sides
You have
of
set
real
guys.
estate investing,
Yeah,
not
we
just replacing
probably have
them,
the capacity
the
to do
buy it and
30
sell it.
flips
Like
a
you need to
year,
kind of pay attention to
and a flip
what
for
the
us
cost
could be
of the market
anywhere
materials are,
between
because
like
it's gonna-
carpet paint.
if your
and
spread is
some,
only 5,000 per
lights
house,
and hinges
that can get
and
eaten up with,
doorknobs and
windows,
stuff,
doors,
all the way to like,
a
man,
new roof.
we just
Whatever
spent
it might
11
be.
months
And it seems
remodeling
like
one in a historic
things are
district where we
kind
had
of
to
going highs and lows the
gut
last
it
2-3
and then
years. So
rebuild it, right? So we're not
what do you
scared of
think
that. I
projections
think
are for the
that's
next
where
coming
we have
years?
some
What
of
do
our
you think's going to
healthiest
happen?
stuff.
Because you
right?
mentioned the
But
12 months.
the way we find our
before,
contractors
so what are your
is,
projections?
we first first ask the people that
I think that
we know are good. Right?
I think
that
we're
are
going to
on
get
our
our
teams,
pick of
like, hey,
contractors.
who else
again,
might you know?
Right. I think.
Do you have
anyone? And we might start off and say, hey,
the amount
know anyone that
of
could do
houses that are selling to an investor,
something
are
like right now,
one-stop shop, right?
less
I don't
than
give a
before,
whole house over
because I don't think
But it'd be like, hey, do you
sellers
know anybody that
are,
could do
educated
could hang doors
on the market
could
yet.
do siding or
That's
stuff.
happening right now.
And then
right?
you just
So
kind of
there's less deals happening
establish
between
that,
investors
right?
and
And then what we
homeowners.
do is we treat them really
And I think
well.
because of
We
that,
ask what we can do for
you
them.
know, right? It's not
There's
about
gonna
what
be
they
as
can
many
do for us,
contractors,
right? It's
right?
about,
So,
well, hey, what can I?
I
how
think
can I
from a
make your life
contractor
easier,
standpoint,
man?
you can either
what would-
micromanage and
when
get cheaper
when
labor,
you want to
or
work
you
with
can
somebody,
be completely
right?
hands
Like,
off
when I
and
ask
pay
you,
more, right?
what makes
And so
what would
from a
make it so
value
cool to
investor,
work
like
with
you got to be
somebody
somewhere.
what's
in the middle,
important to you?
right? You got to have
And
somebody
we
that's
pay right on
that's
time,
value,
and then we try
like
to
what
keep
you
steady
pay
work for people
is-
if we can, man. There's
is
been plenty of times
good
where like
for what you get.
I probably
right?
made the same
So,
amount flipping it as I could have like cleaning it
you know,
out and
and then
selling it.
not to
because
get
I
into it
wanted
all,
to
right?
keep
But like,
someone busy.
I think
right?
you know
It's
we've
not
got these
necessarily
necessarily
like
a good
battery
business
plants
model, but
like,
it's good from like a lot of people in here locally. It's the RV industry,
and then we just
try to keep as many people busy as we can.
You get more contractors in the market. But when the RV industry is good, then all the contractors leave and they go train them as well on quality. Right? There's a lot of that stuff going on. Quality control stuff that affects the supply and demand of contractors. We put our name, but I think at least for the next 12 months.
So it's funny you say that. I'm part of a bunch of
are going to
contractor
have
groups,
more of a pick
and,
of contractors.
There's two mindsets that I see. That's the two dominant ones is you have one guy that
one of
wants
the
to
reasons
make
that
the
there's
most
not a whole lot
money
of,
with the least amount of work.
Houses
And
come
the
to
quality
market
is because
because
of
the
interest rates, right?
Or
So
you get the
Tyler,
guys who know they're putting
he
their
just
name
did
on
a
something
presentation
and they
on
want
this
the best looking
I
finished
guess
product
a couple weeks
possible
ago now
because they have
houses
houses
that
that uphold
are not in
and
distress.
it's a lot of issues
nowadays.
What do the
because
numbers look like
back in after 08? I'm sure you guys remember this.
So the updated ones that I just got
Contractors couldn't
yesterday
find work
actually were
because
83%
nobody was buying houses and renovating them. So
of people that
it was
own a
easy to
home are
find
below
really cheap
4%
labor.
interest rates.
And now,
and that's
after
all
COVID,
fixed rate
after
stuff
the
too,
cost of
right? It's
everything
not
has gone up,
adjustable. It was
not
cool.
only are materials
Bruce
more
Norris was the
expensive,
one that I was
it's
listening to
harder to
yesterday
find
at Flip Hacking
good
Live,
contractors to
and there's a
do
phrase that I use in that
quality
training,
work. And that's an issue I've always
that's in
run
the media,
into.
and he calls it like,
which
or
is
he
why I
used
swing my
the
own
same
hammer a lot of
phrase.
times.
It's the lock-in effect.
It sounds like
Nobody
a lot
wants
of you
to leave
guys have
their
the same
low
issues.
interest rates. And he actually said that's probably what's saving us from a lot of things that normally happen at this part of the cycle.
Because things are going to keep going up.
And I was really like waiting to see what he said about the
I remember when 2x4s got up to like
and
$8 or $9
he anticipates a flat market
to frame out a house.
Like for any of us, especially Neil, because Neil's scaling, right? So if you can look at a straight line and go, okay, well, values are here for the next 12 to 24 months, you can make a lot of decisions with a lot of confidence that way, because you know it's
the builder or the
ups and
contractor
downs that make you nervous. So for me, I was like, oh, that's interesting. A flat market, I think any one of us would take certainty.
All sides.
I know 12 to 24 months, maybe 1 or 2% either
buy
way.
it and sell it.
You can make a lot of good decisions that way. But he was mentioning
what the cost of the market materials are, because that he thinks if your spread is only 5,000 per house,
next that can get years is going to be heavily run with sub-2 financing,
whatever it might be.
Because of that,
and it seems like
he was suggesting, and so was Andy McFarland, who's also a huge investor out of Utah.
What do you think?
It's interesting how we know with investor fuel, right?
Because you mentioned in 12 months
each meeting or
before. So what do you? What are your projections?
Its own little like
yeah. So
I remember when text messaging came out. That's all everybody.
I think we're
going
to get our pick of contractors again.
And yesterday was not as overt, but
the amount most people were houses that are selling to an investor
sub 2 financing is going to be the future
less than before
for the next few
because
years.
I don't think sellers are educated on the market
it's not even
yet.
It's
that's
not
happening
like
right now,
something
right?
new. It's
so
new
there's
to
less deals happening between investors and homeowners.
And I want to say,
and I think because of that,
like everybody wants to talk about interest rates, and I get myself caught into that mix.
I think from a contractor standpoint,
and
you
I don't
can either
micromanage
and get cheaper
say
labor,
Rich Dad,
or you
Poor
can
Dad
be completely hands
off
off and pay more, right?
But we'll just go with it.
From a value,
everybody wants to look at like the good and the bad, or the heads or the tails side of the coin, and you always need to be on the spine of that coin. Is looking at like what is the situation that you're presented with, and how do you capitalize
and then not to get into it all, right?
In this case,
I think
everybody's
got these like
complaining about
battery
interest rates.
plants.
We talked about how there's less investors.
I think a lot of people.
So it's like, where's the opportunity?
It's the RV industry, right? So when the RV industry is terrible,
is for us to learn how to buy,
you get more contractors in the market.
Because I just got a
good, then all the contractors leave and they go get piece rate, right?
They already talked to two other investors. Somebody already went out there, and he's a one-trick pony. He gave you a cash offer,
but I think at least for the next 12 months,
to where. I mean, I don't know if we'll get the deal yet,
of a pick of contractors.
But if we do, we're going to basically spend $11,000 to bring it current, and then we're going to get this property plus all the equity.
Houses coming to market is because of the 4.3% rate, or Tyler
3.7%.
He just did a presentation on this.
So it's like
I guess
you're
going
to
now,
maybe not
amount of houses
make a bunch of money day one, but I just got
what do the numbers look like for that?
Theoretically, could get like a $250,000
property. Updated ones that I just got yesterday actually
$170,000. With the outlay of 11 grand,
own a home are below 4%,
and have the certainty of knowing that I have
that's all fixed 4% debt too, right?
When everybody else is at 7%.
It was cool. Bruce Norris was the one that I was listening to yesterday.
That's what the new opportunity might look like.
There's a phrase that I use in that training.
So
that's in the media, and he calls
the
it like
highest interest rate
the same
in
phrase.
history in the
lock-in
U.S. was
effect.
18.63%.
Nobody wants to leave
back
their
in
low
1981.
interest rates,
and I'm sure
and
a
he
lot of
actually
people were
said
not
that
buying
that's
houses back
probably
then.
what's saving us
But
from a lot
knowing
of
that
things
would
that
drop
normally
off to
happen at
say,
this part of the
you know,
cycle.
we'll just talk recent history.
And I was really like
after
waiting to
08,
see what he said
you
about
know,
the next
interest
12
it was
to 24
impossible to get
months.
money.
And he
So if you
anticipates
knew
a
that
flat
08 that
market,
rates were going
which,
to drop
like,
down
for
to
any of us, especially Neil,
under
because
2,
Neil's
sub
scaling,
3.
right? So if you can
basically
look at
free
a straight
money, like,
line
would
and
you
go,
have bought
okay,
more
well,
properties?
values
Absolutely.
are
Like, I
here
still
for the
kick
next
myself
12
for
to
not buying
24
more
months.
rentals back
You can
then.
make a lot
But,
of decisions with a
hindsight's
lot of
20/20.
confidence that way, because
So
you
knowing
know it's
now
the
that we're
ups
at,
and downs
we're
that
hovering
make
right
you
around
nervous.
8%.
So for me, I was like, oh, that's
What's
interesting.
your
A flat market, I think any
does
of us
your
would take
goals
certainty.
or your
Okay,
direction
if I
change
know
at all,
12
Neil?
to 24
Or is
months,
it just
maybe
kind of like
1 or
if it
2%
makes sense
either way,
at 8%,
you can
then
make
I'll
a
buy
lot
at
of good
8%. If
decisions
it
that
makes
way.
percent
But he was
9%,
mentioning
I'll buy
too,
at
to
9%.
that
Like, what's your
point,
projections?
that
Yeah, I
What's your
mean,
goals?
we're
thinks
taking
that
stuff sub
the
2
market
also.
in the next
You know,
2
what I
years is
don't
going to
like
be
is sub
heavily
2s
run
that
with
need a lot of rehab
sub 2
too. So
financing
that's
because
tough.
of that.
So you don't want to
And
have
he
so
was
much of your cash in
suggesting,
there.
and so was
My other school
Andy
of thought here,
McFarland,
man,
who's also a
is
huge
I'm still
investor out
buying
of Utah.
rentals because I know
It's
gonna be
interesting
easier
how,
for
like,
me
we
to
know with
refi a
investor fuel, right? Like,
portfolio
each meeting or
than it
each
is for me to find
thing
all these
takes its own
places
little, like,
once we get back in that
theme.
5
I
or
remember
4.5
when text
or whatever
messaging came
the
out, that's all
economy's gonna
everybody
give to
talked
us
about.
whenever it does, right? So
And
I'd much
yesterday
rather err
was
towards
not
like the
as
numbers
overt,
work right
but it
now. The
was
location's
most people
good.
were hinting towards the
It's
fact that
tenant proof,
sub
right?
2
We've got it
financing
set
is
up
going
really
to be the
well,
future
and the
for the
cash
next few
flow
years
is
to get around that
$250
whole
a month,
lock-in
right?
effect.
Whereas that
So
stuff
yeah, and it's
drops
not
3-4%.
It's not even like something
and
new.
then
It's
it's
new
just
to
a home run. I
us
won't have
and a
to
lot of
find
other
it
folks.
later.
Yeah.
I'll just have
And
to click the switch
I want
and
to say,
refi it. You know,
like,
that's
everybody
how
wants
I'm
to talk
looking.
about interest rates, and I get myself caught into that mixed
Tyler, what was that?
also.
What,
And I don't
you have
remember
on there?
where I heard it. I want
Pays
to say
are
it was a
actually
Rich Dad
proportionate
Poor
to the
Dad
size of the
quote.
problems we
Could
solve.
be
I
wrong.
like that.
But we'll
Yeah,
just go through it.
just staying
You
like
know,
what Mike
everybody
was
wants to
saying
look
and
at
like
like
what
the
Neil's
good and the
doing
bad,
is,
or
like,
the heads or the tails side of the
adjusting
coin, and you
your
always need to be on the
strategy.
spine
You're
of that
figuring out
coin,
how to solve people's
looking
problem,
at
and the
like
better
what
you are at
what is
it,
the
the more money
situation
you're
that
going
you're
to make.
presented with, and how do
And I
you
think for a lot of people who are
capitalize
stuck in
it,
just
capitalize
strictly,
on it. So like
we're going to
in
buy
this
your
case,
property,
all right,
cash, close in 7
everybody's
days, no
complaining
fees.
about interest
People are
rates.
tired of hearing
We talked
that.
about how
It's
there's
like
less
they're
investors.
hip to that
The
now,
easy
and
money's
they're
gone.
adjusting.
So
And
it's
then
like,
now
where's
people
the
are coming in
opportunity
to
within
figure out a
that?
way to make it more enticing
Well,
for
the
them to sell. So
opportunity
I was
is for us
just
to
simply
learn how to
stating
buy
that, hey,
subject
if,
to.
as we
Because
adjust
I
and
just
grow
got
our
a
skill
lead
set, you're
2
going
days
to
ago
make more money
where
because you're
they
more
already talked to
qualified
2
to
other
solve people's
investors.
problems.
Somebody already went out there, and
And
he's a
I
one
think
trick
it's
pony.
something like never
He
stop
gave you a
learning,
cash
right?
offer.
And I know
It doesn't
that
make sense.
everybody
You
on
can't do anything
on
about
this
it.
podcast
To
right
where,
now, we're all
I
constantly
mean, I don't know if
learning
we'll
and
get the
trying
deal
to
yet.
improve.
But
Neil's
if we
trying to become
do,
a better
we're going to
leader.
basically
Mike's doing storage.
spend $11,000
Aaron's
to bring it
advancing his
current,
skill set. I'm
and
advancing
then we're
mine.
going to get this property
And
plus all the
through that,
equity
we're going to increase our pay.
at like
And I also just wanted to bring up too. I think I
4.3%
messed
rate
the number
or
up on the bottom.
3.7% rate.
For every
I can't remember.
1% drop in
So it's
rate,
like you're
I think
gonna
it's actually
maybe
3
not
million buyers in
make
the
a
US
bunch of
come back
money
into the
day
market.
one, but I just got
So
like
like Neil mentioned,
theoretically
when
could
you're
get like a
buying all these
$250,000
rentals
property
right now, at some point you
for
can discount on to a
$170,000
retail buyer, hold on to them,
with the outlay of
or
11
with
grand,
that you're going to have
and
more,
have the certainty of knowing that I have
hopefully some more
4% debt
appreciation.
when
The
everybody
other
else is
interesting
at
thing I
7.
heard yesterday, and it
So it's
made a
kind
lot
of
sense,
like,
is Bruce Norris
hey man,
mentioned,
that's what the
we
new
just
opportunity
experienced
might look
decades
like
worth of
for a lot of us.
appreciation in the last 2 to 3 years.
So
So
the
he was saying,
highest
hey, for
interest
those
rate
of you that are
in history in
anticipating
the
a
U.S.
bunch of
was
appreciation on the next
18.63%
upswing,
back in 1981.
he was saying, and
I'm
he calls
sure
his
a
whole
lot of
thing
people
now,
were not
he always
buying
has a
houses
title for
back
what he
then,
does. He was
but
calling this uncharted
knowing that it
territory.
would drop off
And
to
he was
say,
saying, hey, don't
you know,
expect
we'll just
this
talk
huge
recent
upswing
history.
because you guys all just got
After
your
08,
appreciation
you know,
bump
interest
for the
is
next
impossible to get money.
10 years. And then
So
the last
if you knew that 08
so
that
that
rates
was it, but I thought it was interesting. I read that the other day that
under 2, sub 3,
3 million more IRAs,
basically free money. Like, would you have bought more property?
Yeah, like, if you're doing that volume, that helps you out a ton. More competition, drive price up a little bit.
So knowing now that we're hovering right around 8%.
So Neil, is there anything we missed that you want to touch on or go back to, or
does your goals or your direction change?
It's a blast to hang out with you guys.
Or is it just kind of like, if it makes sense at 8%, then I'll buy it at 8%. If it makes percent,
so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I'll put a bunch of the links.
What's your projections?
We're taking stuff
South Bend
Fairoffer.com. What I don't like is some twos that need a lot of rehab.
Developments.
So that's
LLC on Facebook.
Tough. So you don't want to have so much cash in there. My other school of thought here, man, is I'm still buying rentals because I know it's going to be easier for me to refi a portfolio on Facebook or Instagram or anything like than it is for me to find all these places
once
if anybody
we
tries to
get
stalk
back
him,
in
you got to
that
memorize his
5
name.
or
Good
4.5
luck.
or whatever the economy is going to give to us whenever it does, right? So I'd
if we
much
can go back
rather
and give your
err
younger
towards
self
like the
advice,
numbers
Neil,
work
what
right
would
now, the
that
location's
advice
good.
be?
Okay, so
it's tenant-proof,
right? We've got it set up really well, and the cash flow
One
is
$250
you got to borrow
month, right?
confidence, whereas that stuff
From someone,
drops 3-4%.
So like somebody that
and then
has
it's
done
just a
it,
home run. I won't have
or
to find it
somebody
later.
that
I'll
is
just
further
have to
ahead
click
of
the
you
switch
that you've
and
been
refi.
that you've been kind of taking
That's
into,
how I'm
right?
with
Find a way to add value to them. Then you can borrow their confidence.
Tyler, what was that?
So you can
quote
make
you
a
have on
move
there?
when it comes time.
Pays
Right? If you don't have any
directly proportional to the
confidence,
size
then
of the
you're
problems
just going
we
to
solve. I
be
like that.
nervous the whole time.
just
So just
staying
get
like
as
what
close
Mike
to
was
someone as
saying,
you
and like
can
what
that
Neil's
is doing
doing
it,
is
even
like
if it's
you're
sharing deals while you grow
adjusting
your
your
confidence, right?
strategy.
And the
You're
second
figuring
thing
out
I'd
how to
say,
solve people's problem. The better you are at it, the
would
more money
be
you're going to
so
make.
make sure you close the
And I think
gap
for a lot of
on
people
any
who are stuck in
information and
just
skill
strictly,
gaps that you have.
we're going
Like
to
as
buy our
fast as you
property,
can,
cash,
right? Your
close in
ability
7
to
days, no
close
fees.
skill gaps.
People are tired of hearing that. It's like
information is going to be
they're
huge,
hip to
right?
that now,
So,
and they're adjusting. And then now people are
what do
coming
they
in
call that?
to figure out a way to make it more enticing for them to sell. So I was just
Patience
simply
and
stating that,
micro
hey,
hustle,
if,
right?
as
Or
we
whatever they
adjust
call
and
that,
grow our
right?
skill set, you're going to make more money because you're more
I've never
qualified
heard
to
that.
solve people's problems.
Macro patience, micro
And I
hustle.
think it's something like never stop learning, right?
Work
and I
your
know
butt
that
off
everybody
in the
on
micro, right?
on
But
this
knowing that it's
podcast
going
right
to take
now,
a while,
we're all constantly learning and
just
trying
keep
to
closing the
improve.
gap. And I guess that
Neil's
would
trying
be
to become
if
a
I could
better
tell
leader.
myself
Mike's
that,
doing
just keep
storage.
working hard,
Aaron's
and then just
advancing his skill set.
just
I'm
close the
advancing mine.
information gap. Yeah.
And through that, we're going to increase our pay. And then I also just
Next
wanted to
question
bring up
for
too,
you is,
I think
what's
I
your
messed the number
ultimate
up on the
goal
bottom one, but
in the future?
for every
Like, where do
1%
you-
drop in
where do
rate,
you want to be
my
at?
goal is to
I
not
think
keep
it's actually
moving the
3 million
goalposts,
buyers in the
V1.
U.S. come back into the market.
So
like
man,
Neil mentioned,
when
Is
you're
that even possible?
buying
my main
all these
goal has
rentals right now,
been
at some
always
point
to
you
just
can just
show
go
my
on
son
to
Jack
a
what's
retail
possible,
buyer, hold on
you know?
to them,
And
or
he needs to
with
see
that
me
you're
going
going to
for
have
it,
more,
and whatever it is, he just
hopefully some
needs
more appreciation.
for
The other
me
interesting
to-
thing I heard
to-
yesterday,
to
and
see
it
me
made a lot of
going
sense,
after
is
it,
Bruce Norris
right?
mentioned, we just
And
experienced a
if there's
decade's
not a
worth
goal
of
there, then
appreciation
that's not good for
in
him,
the last
right?
2
So
to 3
I
years.
think
So he was saying,
I'm
hey,
a
for
progress
those of you
person,
that are
and I know you guys
anticipating a
are
bunch
too.
of
That's why we hit it
appreciation in the
off,
next
right? So
upswing,
I'm
he
always
was
going to be
saying,
chasing
and he
something,
calls
and I'm
his
always
whole
going
thing
to
now,
be
he always
showing
has a
him
title for what he
that
does.
it's possible
He
to
was
chase
calling
whatever
this
you want.
uncharted territory.
So,
and he was saying, hey, don't expect this huge upswing.
Would you say you
because
have
guys
shiny
all
object
just
syndrome
got
or
your
FOMO?
appreciation bump for the next 10,
I did
10
a lot
years in the last
more
2
when I
years.
was
So
a little younger.
that was it. But I
now
thought it was
I just want to
interesting.
do
Remember that
more of
day
what
that
we
for
know we're
1%,
good at.
you have 3 million
Right.
more buyers.
So I had a
which is gonna
chance to
help.
kind of
I mean,
remodel a
yeah,
memory care
for
center
if
and all
Neil were
that,
doing
and
that
like the
volume,
numbers
that
look
helps you out a
great, and
ton.
like
I
the
mean,
more
more
I think about it, I'm
drive
just like,
price
why
up
don't
a
I
little
just keep
bit.
doing what I'm doing, but like do more of it, you know? So
Neil, is there anything we missed that
I
you want
think
to
I
touch on
just
or
want
go
to
back to?
master
Or
what I'm doing
man,
now.
it's just a blast. It's a blast to hang out with
maybe
you
down
guys.
the road.
It's a blast.
Right? But I would say it was a lot worse back in the day. Right?
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I'll put a bunch of the
customer
links in there. We'll
remodels,
put
and
them
I was,
with the
oh yeah, sure,
podcast,
I'll help
but,
you out. Oh yeah, I'll be your agent. I'll do this, and now it's just like, hey, I'll refer you out because I just want to stay focused
LLC
on
on
what I'm
Facebook.
focused on.
And then NK development from a shotgun blast to a slam
I
rifle.
guess.
You're also on
I
YouTube.
guess.
I'm not going to read that whole that whole thing out.
You could just type.
But so, all right, if
guys
you want to get
Facebook or
you got anything
Instagram or
else,
anything like that.
Tyler, Mike?
So, yeah.
If anybody tries to stalk him, you got to memorize his name. Good luck, Kluszczynski. So, if we can go back and give your younger self advice, Neil, what would that advice be?
Okay, so if I were starting again, here's kind of the two thoughts that I have, right? One is you got to borrow confidence.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks
from
for having
someone. So like somebody that has done
Neil,
it.
thank you for hopping on,
or
man. Greatly appreciate it.
Further ahead of you
fun
that
catching
you've
up,
been
and
that you've
maybe
been
we'll slide back out to Chicago,
right? Find a way to add
sometime soon,
value
and
to them.
Find
You can
find
borrow
the
their
only
confidence. So
flamboyant
you can
restaurant
make a
honky
move
tonk
when it
in
comes
Chicago.
time, right? If you don't have any confidence, then you're
All
just
right, man. It
going
was
to
good
be
talking to you.
nervous the
and
whole
talk to
time.
you
So
soon.
just get as close to someone
Thanks,
as you
Neil.
can that is doing it, even if it's sharing deals while you grow your confidence, right? And the second thing I'd say,